Hi everyone. In the last video I made, there was a question on transposing instruments, and I got a number of comments from you guys saying, don't understand what you're talking about, this is confusing. So I think I need to do a better job explaining transposing instruments, and I'm going to do my best here. Let me get a clef on the page. And I think a good example to talk about transposing instruments is the saxophone. And the reason why is everybody, I think most people know that there are different saxophone types, and the four main types, they fit with the voice types of a choir: soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. So I think that's a good example that we can kind of live with here for a second. So in the case of soprano saxophone, that also is sometimes called saxophone in B flat. The reason it's called saxophone in B flat is because when the player pushes air into the instrument, they don't push any of the keys down, they don't do anything else. The note that comes out is the note B flat, okay? And this is going to be true for any of these transposing instruments. So instruments like clarinet or like, let's say, a horn in F, that means when the player pushes air into the instrument, the note F would come out. In the case of E flat clarinet, same deal. When they push air into it, the note E flat comes out, okay? And so with saxophone, soprano saxophone is saxophone in B flat. So that means when they push air into it, the note B flat comes out. What they're taught when they're learning the instrument is that when they push air into the instrument and they don't push any of the keys down, that is going to be the note or the fingering for the note C, okay? And this is true for any type of saxophone. You are taught as a saxophone player that when you see C, you blow into the instrument and you don't push any keys down. And that note you're taught when you're reading the music is that's the note C. But you're getting all of these different notes because you have these different instruments that make different notes when you do that. So in the case of alto saxophone, that's actually saxophone in E flat. So when the player has this note on the page, they push air into the instrument, and the note that actually comes out is way down here. It's a major sixth below the C. So alto saxophone is always sounding a major sixth below the written pitch. Now, why would we do this? This is kind of crazy. Well, the reason why is the person that's learning the saxophone, they are learning how to read music, and they're learning the fingerings for the different notes in terms of what's on the page, and they can transfer from soprano, alto, tenor, or bass saxophone pretty easily, at least in terms of what the notes are. They don't have to relearn fingerings for different notes. It's always going to be the same. It's consistent across those different instruments. So if you're a composer, you have to know this, and if you're writing for alto saxophone or saxophone in E flat, that means that instrument's always going to sound a major sixth below what you're writing, so you have to adjust accordingly. So there's a practical consideration here. It actually makes it easier for players to transfer to different instruments in the instrument family. Okay, clarinets are the same way. You have different types. You have like clarinet in E flat, clarinet in B flat, clarinet in A. There's even clarinet in C, where it is going to actually be the written pitch. But there's a history here as to how these instruments developed, and because we do it this way now, it just makes it easier for a player to transfer to play all these different saxophones, for example. So if you're kind of new to music and you're playing in an ensemble, there might be somebody in there that you're impressed by because, wow, they can play, alto sax and tenor sax, and it seems like they're just so talented. Well, yes, there's some adjustments that you have to make when you're changing instruments, right? Maybe how much air you push into the instrument to get the sound, maybe the size of the instrument, stuff like that. But in terms of how to read the music, it's the same. They're not really learning a new thing. And so it makes it easy to transfer and move around inside of instrument families. So I hope that makes sense. I also should say that if you ever look at like an orchestral score for maybe Beethoven, right? You will notice that the transposing instruments, it looks in the score like they're playing in a different key than what the rest of the orchestra is. So if you're looking at a Beethoven symphony and it's in the key of C, all of the non-transposing instruments are going to be written in the key of C. But then if you look at the trumpet in D, for example, which is a transposing instrument, trumpet in D is now the key signature is gonna be different. It's gonna look weird on the page because it's like, wow, this trumpet looks like it's playing in a completely different key than what the rest of the orchestra is. That's not actually what's happening, okay? And so you have to be aware of this because if you're not, it can get pretty confusing. I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. Please feel free to leave me a comment if it's still confusing or you have more questions, and I'll do my best to help you out. See you next time.